خوش اومدیم به این ویدیو.
هشتگ صنعتی نتورک.
دوستان اگه ویدیو رو لایک نکردیم باعث دلگرمی منه که لایک و سابسکرایب کنید و یه کامنت انگلیسی بذارید حسابتون نپره.
It's time to take back control of your mind so that you can take back your life. What controls your attention controls your life.
For an ambitious entrepreneur, this is your time of greatest opportunity.
The national economy, what's going on in world affairs,
does not have to become your personal reality.
let others lead small lives, but not you.
Have it be said of you that you did the best you could with what you had.
Now is the time to do something different. No matter what your past has been, you have a spotless future. I'm telling you, the beliefs that you have about your potential, the beliefs of what you can and can't do, what you're good at and not good at, are made up.
My challenge to you is this: make now your turning point. This moment. What you have accomplished so far is only a fraction of what's truly possible for you. You are far more powerful, capable, and gifted than you allow yourself to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, publisher of Success Magazine, Darren Hardie.
Thank you. Wow, you're beautiful. Such a delight to be with you. I think I am obligated as publisher of Success Magazine to ask you a very important question, and that is this. Why is it that you are not more successful than you are right now? Now, I know many of you are very, very successful. You wouldn't be RE/MAX agents if you weren't already successful. But let's be honest. It's only a fraction of what you're really capable of. Your current results are way under what your true potential is. So what is it that's holding you back? What is the barrier that's keeping you from really realizing the gift and potential and capability that you have inside of you that has not been blossomed and realized yet? Well, let me give you what I see as the number one myth that I hear as the answer to that question. First of all, how many people here had a nice, normal, happy childhood? Wow, lots of you. Well, good for you, because my childhood sucked. My parents divorced when I was 18 months old, and my mother didn't want me, so she was happy to just hand me over to my father. As a matter of fact, when she first heard from the doctor that she was pregnant, her response was anger and upset. And then when they divorced and I had been born, she gladly just passed me over to my father. Now, you have to realize my dad was only 23 years of age at the time as well. He didn't know what to do with me, and he had just moved from the San Francisco Bay Area to what seemed like the middle of nowhere, Albuquerque, New Mexico, to take a job as an overworked, underpaid university football coach. And it was just he and I out there by ourselves with him trying to figure it out. So this was literally his parenting strategy. He would just shove me in the corner of a couch, barricade me with pillows, and put headphones on my head to try to keep me quiet. And you can see the stunned look I have on my face. I had that pretty much most of my childhood. You had to just sort of figure it out for yourself, right? It was survival of the fittest around in our household. And my father, he parented like he coached, which meant that there was no whining, no crying, lots of yelling, lots of cursing. As a matter of fact, if you remember the movie Full Metal Jacket, my father was Sergeant Gunnery, but in those 1970 short football coaching shorts. And he was infamous for one of his coaching philosophies, which was no matter how hurt a player got on the field, they were not allowed to come out of the game. And one time this linebacker just gets smashed in the middle of the field, wobbles to the sideline, begs my dad to take him out of the game. My dad grabs him by the face mask, teeth clenched, spitting through him, "Not unless you're showing bone." And he pulls back his shoulder pad, and out from his neck skin was sticking his collarbone. So it was well known around our household, if you ever got really sick and you asked to stay home from school, my dad would yell from the other side of the house, what? "Not unless you're showing bone." And we'd have to drag our sorry butts out to school. Well, when I was age 4, he married what became my stepmonster, and I did not mispronounce that. And they went on to have 2 other children. And because in her eyes I was of the other woman, she did everything she possibly could to try to ostracize me from the family at every turn. And you can also see that my father cut my hair, which I think I suffer more emotional trauma from than anything else. But I have to tell you, this dysfunctional childhood is the reason why this morning I stand before you as the very high-functioning achiever that I am today. You see, a lot of people look at their past as if they have wounds that they need to heal from, when in actuality, these become your strengths that enable you to do things that normal people can't do. You know how to build a muscle, right? You put a muscle under intense stress and strain over and over, intense stress and strain. And when you do that, you're actually tearing the muscle fiber. You're actually destroying the muscle fiber. And then in rest and recovery, it grows back bigger than it was before. So now you can lift heavier weights than you could have before because of it. Most people look at their past as a recovery that they have to heal from, when in actuality, your adversity is your advantage. It is the training ground that enables you to build muscles so that you can go on and do the extraordinary things that ordinary people just can't do. So what I want to do is to talk to you about how to ignite the principles of the compound effect so that we can jumpstart your income, jumpstart your life, jumpstart your business. So I get asked often, why did I write this book originally? What was the impetus? And we had just taken over Success Magazine, and I was looking at the culture and society around us, trying to figure out what were some of those barriers that are keeping people from being able to realize their potential. And the more that I looked around at our current culture and society, the more mad and upset that I became about how much we're being misled, tricked, bamboozled, and truly taken for fools. And these marketing messages are derailing and distracting people from the truth about what it really takes to succeed. Let me give you the true secret. Success is earned by hard freaking work. If anybody ever comes up to you and asks you, what's your secret to success? What does it take for me to become more successful? I want you to say it. It's just 3 words. Hard freaking work. Over and over, right? The truth about earning success is this. It is mundane. What you got to do when you go back to your offices, it's mundane. It is also unexciting. Nobody's going to film what you do at the office and turn it into some fabulous new reality TV show, right? It is unsexy, regardless of what you see on those reality TV shows. It is also laborious, day in and day out, and it is downright frustrating, and sometimes it is gut-kinking, heart-wrenchingly defeating. That's the truth about the process of earning success. But see, that doesn't make for interesting books, or riveting infomercials, or exciting new dramas. So we are constantly paraded the alternative around us to try to allure us into these gimmicks so that somebody else's financial agenda can be served. And so the first thing that I want to cover with you here is truly, hear me, stop looking for the quick fix or the shortcut or the cliff notes for success, happiness, and wealth. There isn't one. You will walk through a minefield of laborious, mundane, unexciting, heart-wrenchingly defeating minefields to get to the other side of your success journey. You see, success is earned one day at a time. Every day you lift your head up off the pillow, you get to define and decide whether that day is or is not going to be a success. One day at a time, one step at a time. Every step that you walk from that bed and walk through your day, you are adding another chisel mark to the marble slab that either ends up being the great David or ends up being a pile of rubble. One decision at a time. You're presented with hundreds of decisions throughout the day. Every one of those is navigating you towards your path of success. One phone call at a time. You know that phone call you don't want to make because you're a little intimidated, a little afraid, a little scared? Each one of those phone calls is making the decision. And then one meeting at a time, deciding to come. Many of you are busy, all sorts of justifiable excuses and whether why you shouldn't be here. But you chose and decided to be here. This is a significant defining moment for the future potential of your success. And you can never own success. So there are a lot of people who are in the front row, very successful. But here's the deal. You can never own success. You can only rent it. And the rent is due every single day. How many of you have ever been to a seminar like this, read a book or listened to a CD program, and on the back of it it said, transformational results in 90 days or less, and at the end of 90 days, you did not experience transformational results. Anybody ever have that experience? Yeah, me too. Here's why. It is not what you know that determines your success. See, that's another myth. Knowledge is not power. It is the potential of power, but in and of itself, it is not power. So it's not what you know, it is only what you do with what you know. You see, there are a lot of broke geniuses in our society. People who have all the letters after their name, know all the knowledge, and are broke as a result. Right? Or I love this statistic here. People who spend their entire academic and professional career dispensing advice about how nutrition and lack of exercise will kill you, 44% of all doctors are overweight. Or as the great philosopher Morpheus said, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. So as I go through some of these core fundamentals of success, what I don't want you saying inside your head is this: oh, I already know that. Instead, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Am I doing that? And then second, have I mastered it? I might be doing it, but have I mastered it? And then the third most important question is, would my results prove that I've mastered it? Would my waistline prove that I've mastered it? Would the size of my business prove that I've mastered it? Would the relationships and the intimacy that you have in your relationships prove that you've mastered it? And if the answer is, well, then there's still something yet to learn. This great quote from Samuel Johnson says, people need to be reminded more often than they need to be instructed. So maybe if we take a few of the principles you already know, you've heard about, you know it, put it to the front of your mind, give you an action plan so that you can follow it and stick to it. Maybe for the first time, it actually releases the floodgates of your potential. And that's really what I'm after for you here this morning. What I want to do is show you what I call the success operating system. This is the foundation in which all success is built on top of. No matter what it is that you do or whatever goal you pursue, underneath this is this operating system. It's kind of like this. You could take the world's greatest design software. The greatest engineers in the world, tens of millions of dollars have gone into designing it. And if you take this great world-class software and install it on a computer that has a faulty operating system, what happens? It's buggy, it crashes, it never operates to its full potential. But the user usually makes the mistake of saying, oh, it's that crappy software. No. It's not the crappy software, it's the crappy operating system you installed it on. So that's what a lot of people do when they read a book. They go to a seminar, they listen to a CD program, and then they try it, and then they go, oh, that doesn't work, that stuff doesn't work. No. It's not the program that didn't work. It was installed on a crappy operating system. And it got buggy, it crashed, and it didn't operate to its full potential. So if we can get your operating system operating at world-class standards, then when we install the leadership software, the sales software, the negotiation software, the real estate software, now all of a sudden it can operate to its full potential and your potential is released. So here's my goal. In the short time that I've got with you, I want to provide you a system that will enable you to achieve goals that when you walked in here this morning, you were too afraid to even set for yourself. Now, why would you be too afraid to set the kind of goals that you're truly capable of? And I think it's because it just seems ridiculous. You can't see how you could accomplish it, so it just seems unfathomable to you. But I believe that if you could see the yellow brick road, all of a sudden, if you can see the pathway, now you're emboldened and empowered to set the kind of goals that are equivalent to your true potential. And the ultimate outcome that I'm after, the reason why I left my family and time to come and be with you here this morning is 12 to 18 months from now, I want you to be entirely and utterly unrecognizable to the people in your life. Unrecognizable to your spouse, to your kids, to your neighbors, to the people at the office, to your competitors, and most importantly, unrecognizable to your banker. So that's where we're at. What we're after is undeniable, unequivocal results. So this is going to be a working session. I'm not the only one working here. We're going to get some results from you. I encourage you to take notes. We're not going to get it all done in this session, so I'll assign some homework assignments. And here's the deal. This is usually twice the length to give you this content. I got a short period of time with you here. We're not going to be able to get it all in, but I have recorded this. And I'm willing to give, because I love Remax and I love Dave and Gail, I want to give you the full recording of this talk so that you can listen to it over and over again. And as long as you promise me not to publish it publicly or distribute it widely with just you, your family, and your immediate team, you can download a recording of this entire audio, as well as all the slides that I've got, a printed copy, okay? I'll show you how to get that here in a little bit. So this is the operating system. This is what stands between you and whatever goal that you've got. And it doesn't matter what your goal is. You want to dominate your marketplace within real estate. You want to buy a new car, a new home. You want to fund your child's college fund. Whatever's between you and that goal is this operating system. So we're going to lay it in. I'm going to give you the highlights of those cornerstone coding program that will rewire your operating system. All right, so let's start at the beginning. What is the root control factor for all your outcomes in life? If you were to boil the most important personal growth and development principles down to one, what is the most important thing to determining the outcomes of your life? Well, here's the deal. We all come into this world exactly the same. Naked, scared, and ignorant. Now, a few of us a little uglier. You saw my baby photo, right? But essentially the same. Naked, scared, and ignorant. But after this grand entrance, what is it that determines the outcome of the life that you live? What determines whether you end up living here or whether you end up living here? After the naked, scared, and ignorant entrance, what determines whether you end up driving this or whether you end up driving this? What's the one thing? What is the answer to this? What's the one thing that determines at the end of a long life, do you end up lonely, broken, despondent, or do you end up in a relationship of 50 years of incredible intimacy and bliss? What's the one thing that determines whether you get to send your children to the greatest universities in the world, or no matter what it is that they qualified for, they can't go because you can't afford to send them? What determines the one thing whether you get to donate to your charity to your greatest heart's content and travel the world in fantastic luxury? If you saw the movie City Slickers, Curly asked you to find the one thing. Well, what is the one thing that determines all the outcomes of your life? Anybody know? That's a damn good thing I came here this morning. If this is the one thing that's going to determine your entire life's outcomes, here's what it is. It all comes down to choices. Choices determine the entire life experience that you end up enjoying. And if we're going to change your life, we've got to change it right at the control center. That if we're going to change your trajectory, we've got to change your choices. Because if we start changing your choices, we can change the entire direction and then all the outcomes that you create. So choices is the first line of code within the operating system. So then you ask, okay, well, what choices? Because you're faced with hundreds throughout the day. And you think it's all just who you marry, the college you go to, these big choices. The reality is this. How many people have ever been bitten by an elephant? Anybody? Besides Dave, right? I've seen those videos. How many people have ever been bitten by a mosquito? Yeah, see, nature provides clues. It's the little things in life that will bite you. Same thing when it comes to choices. People ask me all the time, we've got 7 billion people on the planet. How do these 12 people who appear on the cover of Success magazine get there? What do they do different than the 7 billion other people that populate this planet that appear on the cover of Success magazine? Well, let me give you the answer. But first, let me give you the answer most people assume it is, where they're incorrect. Here's the reality. Success is not a result of heroic feats. People you see on the cover of Success Magazine did nothing heroic to get there. It is not a result of grand acts of bravery. This is another American myth, it seems. Just leap and hope that the net appears. Please don't do that, because you bounce hard and it's not worth it. They did not perform any grand acts of bravery. They also didn't perform any quantum leaps. There was no overnight success stories there. They did, however, and this is what success is the result of, small, seemingly insignificant, moment-to-moment choices. The only thing that was different between the 12 and the 7 billion is their small, seemingly insignificant choices over time. This is a hard thing for the for the human brain to wrap their head around. So I'm going to try to break this down for you so that you understand how pivotal some of these seemingly insignificant choices are. Small little choices like at lunch. You go to a restaurant, you're presented with a menu, and a menu is nothing but what? A series of choices. Do you choose the hamburger and fry, or do you choose the salad? Now that doesn't seem to be like a Success Magazine cover-making choice, but a choice like, at the end of a long, hard day, do you stop by and do a workout at the gym, or do you rush home to catch your favorite sitcom? Small, seemingly insignificant choices like, in the heat of an argument, do you turn your back and walk out of the room, or do you turn on your heel, say you're sorry, and make a moment of magic? Small, seemingly insignificant choices in the moment. In a networking event, do you walk across the room and introduce yourself to that person you've always wanted to meet but have always been too intimidated to do so, or do you hunker down in fear one more time? Small, seemingly insignificant choices like, at the end of a long, hard day, do you put in a few more calls, or do you rush out the front door and call it a day? Small, seemingly insignificant choices add up to big, gargantuan differences in results. Let me give you, for instance. Let's say I give you the choice between a penny, a copper penny, and $1 million in cash. Now, the copper penny doubles every day for 31 days, and you get the $1 million in cash. How many people take the $1 million in cash? Okay, got a couple? All right, tough crowd. Let me sweeten the deal here a little bit. A penny that doubles every day for 31 days, or $2 million in cash, net present value. How many people take the $2 million in cash? Okay, a few more converts. Last offer, penny that doubles every day for 31 days, or $3 million in cash. Anybody with the $3 million now? Okay, so let's say that you did take the clue that small things add up to big results, and you picked the penny. Or you took out your HP calculator and you started doing yeah. Let's say you picked the penny and your friend next to you picked the $3 million in cash. So you got the penny, 5 days go by, your pennies turn into 16 little copper pennies in your hand, they got $3 million in cash, partying like a rock star, you're looking at your 16 cents. Day 10, your penny has doubled up into $5.12. They're on yachts with Robin Leach for the lifestyles of the rich and famous, champagne and caviar, and you don't have enough for a happy meal at McDonald's. Day 20, your pennies turned into $5,242, and they still got the $3 million in cash. However, on day 31, your penny turns into $10,737,000 against their paltry $3 million in cash. This is the reason why Einstein said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. This is the reason why I'm telling you compound choices are the 8th wonder of the success world. Because see, the math between day 1 and day 2 is exactly the same math between day 30 and day 31. The choices are exactly the same, but it takes the amount of time for you to see the compound effect of those, and you go from what seems to be another body in an audience to whammo bammo, the cover of Success Magazine, because of the consistency of that compounded choice. Let's take 3 friends. Let's say these 3 friends are all in the real estate business. They all graduate from the same university. They moved into the same suburb. They've got 2.2 children, white picket fence. They make $50,000 a year in their real estate business. And all of a sudden, Scott picks up a copy of Success Magazine, starts reading, gets inspired to try a few things. Nothing dramatic. Here's what Scott's going to do to start making different choices. He is going to read 10 pages of a good book first thing in the morning. Instead of picking up the newspaper and looking at all the wars, crimes, and criminals in the world, he's going to read something positive, something instructional. On the way to the office, instead of listening to more wars and gossiping, scandal, and corruption, he's going to put on something inspiring, something instructional on the CD of his car. He's going to cut 125 calories out of his diet. Now, we're not talking about an extreme makeover. We're talking about a small bowl of cereal or half a candy bar. That's the only change in his diet that he's going to take out. He's going to drink 2 bottles of water a day. He's going to park at the back of the parking lot and walk into the office. He's going to make a few more calls before calling it a day, and he's finally going to make his date night with his wife a priority, okay? That's all Scott's going to do. Pretty simple. Now, how many people believe that if this was your entire success plan, this is all you had to do to change your life, change your world, how many people believe that they could do Scott's plan? Yeah, it's easy. All right, now let's take a look at Larry. Larry's just going to be doing what Larry's always done. He's just going to be maintaining the status quo. Then we've got Brad. Now, Brad's just going to start making those slight drifting poor choices, right? Nothing rash, nothing dramatic. Here's what Brad's going to do. He's going to munch on a little junk food around the office. You know those chocolate-covered pretzels at the end of the secretary's desk? Half a handful of chocolate-covered peanut M&Ms. That's it. He's going to miss a couple of workouts a week, you know, because he's tired, he's got a headache, he's got to go to the Little League game. He's going to drink more Diet Coke than water, God forbid. He's going to move around a little less. He's going to skip a prospecting call or two, and he's going to give the cold shoulder to the wife just a couple times throughout the week. No big deal. We're not going to call in Jerry Springer to film this domestic situation. Just a cold shoulder a couple times a week. Now let's see how this starts to stack up. 5 months down the road, these 3 friends look exactly the same. No difference in their results whatsoever. Now 10 months down the road, exactly the same. No mathematical difference between any of their results whatsoever. Now Scott's starting to go, what the hell? I'm like listening to these CDs, reading these books, doing this dang date night, week after week, and my buddies are sloughing off, and we have the same exact results. It doesn't look like it's working. Let's say he maintains. He goes 20 months down the road, and the results are just slight. It's just slight. Brad can feel it in his belt a little bit, right? Tension is set in at the office, but nobody's been fired yet. Apathy is starting to set in at the office. There's tension, but even the neighbors or the friends can't really see it, right? It's just sort of under the current still. It is not until 27 months, we're not even going 31, 27 months where you see dramatic differences between these 3 friends. Let's add it up. So Scott, here's what Scott's done. 10 pages a day, 5 days a week. Let's take the weekends off. Let's not get too personally developed. He's read 47 books on success and achievement. Do you realize that after a college graduate leaves college, the average person reads less than 3 books the rest of their life? And Scott's read 47 on success and achievement. 465 hours of inspiring, instructional success and achievement content. That 125 calories he cut out of his diet, he lost 33.5 pounds. A couple months ago, I spent the day with Dr. Mehmet Oz. He said we could end American obesity today if everybody just cut 125 calories out of their diet. That's all it takes. No extreme makeover, no diet, no plan, nothing. 125 calories off your base diet. 2,000 steps meant he walked 900 miles, which means he lost another 30 pounds. The 125 date nights with the wife, I had photos for that. It got risque. Couple extra calls, he made 1,860 extra calls that his buddies didn't make. If he closed 3% of those, which means that he didn't learn anything from those books or those audio programs, he added on top of his $50,000 income an additional $279,000. Small, seemingly insignificant, minor little adjustments, big results. Now, Larry is like most people in America. Treading water, falling a little bit further behind, becoming disenchanted, bored, apathetic, passionless, disengaged, and blaming Obama, right? That's Larry. Brad, on the other hand, his poor little choices, here's what's happened. The 125 extra calories, he's added 33.5 pounds. Missed a couple of workouts, more Diet Coke than water, more weight gain, now he's under cardiac arrest danger. Missed a few meetings, made a few less calls, business and financial emergency, he's on the brink. And at home, the cold shoulder and inattention to the spouse, apathy set up, and he's on the brink of divorce. Small, seemingly insignificant, poor choices compound into disaster. So all this seems pretty simple. Why is it then that people fail to make these positive choices? I want to set these traps out in front of you, because as you walk out of here at this conference center, the traps are laying all over the floor, particularly here in Vegas. The traps are all over, and I want you to be able to recognize them so that you can walk around them and you don't fall in that trap again. So let's point them out for you real quick. Number one is this. at the time you're making the choice, the results are invisible. It doesn't look like anything's happening at all. And so you can get faked out. You can think it doesn't matter one way or the other because the results are invisible. Now, I could change this entirely right now in a nanosecond. If I had the power to collapse the space-time continuum to your choice right now, 20 years stretched out, what that choice compounded looks like, if I could collapse it and show you the reality of that, I promise you, you'd change your choice. For instance, let's say at lunch, you did pick the hamburger and fries, and upon the first bite, your gut explodes, your heart erupts in your chest, and you fall to the ground in a heart attack. Or the next morning you wake up like this. Hey, how do you get like that? One hamburger at a time. That's it. Or let's just say that you're out with your girlfriends, they're drinking, they say, hey, just have a cigarette. You try it, you breathe it in. At the end of the cigarette, you're like, wow, what's weird is I actually feel better than I felt before the cigarette, right? But let's say the next morning, you wake up like this. I don't think you're going to take another cigarette. Or let's just say you're a young kid, you know, you try your first cigarette, smoke, all your buddies think you look cool. I mean, this looks like a young James Dean, right? All this positive affirmation. Let me take the space-time continuum and collapse it and have his future self talk to his current self. What would he say? Put the cigarette down. But for all those years, it didn't look like anything was happening until those last couple of few years, and the compound effect went wham, and it's too late. You don't make a couple of phone calls. You said you were going to tell your accountability partner you're going to make 7 calls a day to new prime prospects. But today you got a headache, you got to pick up the kids, you got laundry, you got this, committee meeting that you got to go to. Just today, I'll make up for it tomorrow. And Donald Trump is called and you're fired. Or let's just say Dave Liniger calls and says you're fired, you can't work here any longer, and your house goes up on foreclosure. Because that single choice, whether you know it or not, compounded over time, it's exactly what happens. Or in the heat of a battle. You're like, I know we said we never go to bed angry, but tonight, we'll talk about it tomorrow, I just won't have it anymore. And the next morning, you wake up to divorce papers. And you have to look your little girl in the eye and explain why you couldn't make a different choice. Here's the answer to this. Understand that every choice you make ignites the compound effect, either in the positive or the negative. You've heard of the butterfly effect, right? Butterfly flaps its wings, one part of the planet. On the other side of the planet, there's a tsunami. That's exactly what happens in your life. Every choice you make ignites the butterfly effect. One little choice ignites a tsunami on the other side 10, 20 years down the road, either positive or negative. Every one of them. Now, I'm not saying you got to be dogmatic and righteous about everything. Your grandmother was right, everything in moderation. But you do have to know, there is no cheat day, there is no binge and make up for it on Monday reality when it comes to the butterfly effect or the compound effect. Everything has a consequence. So the answer to this is, when you start making positive choices and the results are invisible and you're getting no reward for your positive choice, you just have to have patience. Trap number 2. The new trajectory that you put your life on, it's subtle and deceptive. And you don't realize where it is that you're heading until you get there. For instance, let's say that a plane is on the tarmac at LAX and its nose is pointed directly at LaGuardia to its destination. And let's say that while it's on the tarmac, the nose is off by only 1 degree, which is from here to here. Did you see that? From here to here. In other words, not much. By the time it gets across the country, that 1 degree will have taken it off course 150 miles, 2 states away. So this is what happens in most people's lives. 10, 20 years come down the line, and then they end up going, what happened? How did I get so fat? How did I end up bankrupt? How did I end up divorced? Look, the reality is you might not have done anything colossal to make a mistake. You might have only been 1 degree off, and that 1 degree traveled over 10, 15, 20 years, and now you're 150 miles off your intended destination. That's how it happens. So just like a plane needs a gyroscope in the nose to guide it along its path, you need a gyroscope for your life. And one of the things you'll get with the resource is on a single page how you can gyroscope and guide your life step by step, day, week, month, quarter, so that you can end up directly with your intended target. See, it's kind of like life on the ground is more like a double black diamond ski run, though, however. Let's say you're at the top of the ski run, and your goal is that cabin with a cozy fire, comfy chair, cup of hot cocoa. And if you just point your skis directly at your target over that black diamond mogul run, what's going to happen? It's going to get ugly, right? So what happens is you start towards your intended path, and a mogul comes and pushes you a little off to the right. Now, a lot of people, not realizing it, just ski off the mountain in that direction. But you're smart enough to adjust. And you adjust a little bit, a mogul pushes you off to the left. And you still got your sights set on the target. And you do this all the way down. Now, if you look at the path, the interesting thing about this is that you are off track more than you're on track. But you can still end up in the exact chair in front of the exact fire with that cup of hot cocoa, if you constantly get yourself back on track. This is the reason why having a guiding system all along the way is crucial, because however far you go off track is the same distance you got to travel to get back on track. So the only thing that separates you from getting to your intended target, if you're disciplined with getting on track, is how far you drift along the way is the only time parameter to getting to your intended destination. Here's the third, immediate gratification. We want what we want, when we want it, and we want it right now. As a culture, we've become addicted to immediate gratification. We're trying to pleasure ourselves at every turn. So let's say that at the end of a fine meal, you're presented with two options. One is a slice of warm, homemade chocolate cake or a glass of water. What do you get if you pick the chocolate cake? Yeah, you get joy in your mouth. I mean, you get chocolate cake. I mean, you get ecstasy. You get incredible pleasure. Now, what do you get if you choose the glass of water? Nothing. You get bupkis. And you got to sit there and watch your friend just have ecstasy with her chocolate cake. This is the biggest problem for you about making positive choices. If you make a good choice, you get nothing. You make a poor choice, you get pleasured. This right here is the crux of the issue. Positive, nothing. Poor, pleasure. So, we come by this need to pleasure ourselves very early in life. We walk through a minefield of opportunities to pleasure ourselves all day, every day. And your ability to abstain and say no, the greatest barrier to your success is your ability to withstand immediate gratification. And so the way that, this is the great paradox that you're faced with. What gives you short-term pleasure, the chocolate cake, standing your ground in an argument, going home instead of making calls, creates long-term pain. And what gives you short-term pain, going to that meeting you don't want to go to, picking up the phone, going and working out even though you don't feel like it, creates long-term pleasure. The way that my mentor, Jim Rohn, put it is this. In life, you will suffer one of two pains. Now, there's already great wisdom in this sentence right here. Here's the great wisdom. In life, you will suffer. Like, get over the idea you're going to avoid that deal. You will suffer. This is life. Now, you get to choose your suffering. Here's your choice. You get to choose the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And as he says, the pain of discipline weighs ounces. Going to the gym, saying you're sorry, picking up the phone, going to the meeting. However, the pain of regret, divorce, bankruptcy, estranged relationships to the people in your family, that weighs tons. So as you're going through this minefield of choices, I want you to evaluate it: short-term pleasure, long-term pain. Pain of discipline or pain of regret. That will help you, at least inform you, to make the choice you know already you need to make. The last is what's easy to do. All this is easy, I'm telling you, to be successful. The actual core activity, the behavior, it's all easy. What's easy to do, however, is also easy not to do. You see, it's easy to eat an apple a day for your good health. It's easy to walk around the block. It's easy to say you're sorry, to make a moment of magic. It's easy to pick up the phone, for crying out loud, and make phone calls or write thank you letters or drink 8 glasses of water. All this is easy. But it's also easy not to do. It's so easy, it's neglected, it's discounted. And we go searching for fanciful, complicated, mysterious answers instead, when in actuality it was always very simple, if we'll just do what's easy. So I have an important question for this intelligent audience. What do successful people and unsuccessful people have in common? You're just going to go with choices now, no matter what, right? Here's what it is. They both hate to do what it takes to be successful. Successful people just do it anyway, right? See, at 5 o'clock in the morning when my alarm goes off and I got a warm embrace with my beautiful bride, do I want to leave that warm embrace to put on running shoes to go pound pavement out in the middle of the dark in order to go for a run? I do not. At the end of a long, hard day, when I'm exhausted and all I want to do is go home and relax, do I want to go into a gym and push a bunch of lead weight around with a bunch of hairy gorilla-like dudes? I do not. In the heat of a battle, when I know this time I know that I'm right, do I want to turn around and say, honey, you're right, I'm sorry? Oh, no, I do not. But why do I do these things? Because that's what it takes to be successful. See, I think it's very liberating for unsuccessful people to realize that successful people hate this stuff too. I walked into the gym the other day, and I check in, and he goes, have fun. He turned around and said, what? Have fun? I don't come here for fun. I hate this place. I've hated every day I've ever walked into this place. I come here for discipline, not fun. So you don't have to like it. Muhammad Ali had a famous quote where he said, I've hated every early morning workout I've ever had in my entire career, but I loved being world champion. And that's what it takes. Successful people are just willing to do the things that unsuccessful people are not. The day that changed my life, this is the day that could change yours as well. I walk into a seminar like this, smaller audience. The lecturer in the front of the room was talking about relationships, and he asked the audience, what's the shared percentage between 2 people needed in order to make a relationship work? Well, I'm 18 at the time, obviously wise in all the ways of love, romance, and marriage, and so I stand up and say 50-50, right? Each person's got to be willing to do part of their deal and make it work. By the look on his face, it's obvious that is not the right answer. Somebody else stands up and says 51-49. One person's got to be willing to drag it along a little bit further. His look proceeds. Somebody else stands up, obviously an engineer, and says 80-20, and he gives this algorithm about how it worked out. Still the wrong answer. Tired of asking the audience, went to the whiteboard at the time and simply wrote 100-0. Until you're willing to give 100% to making the relationship work with 0 expectation in return, will you make it work? But if you ever give with the expectation to get, you immediately put the relationship into a tailspin that it might not ever recover from. And then he went on to explain how we are 100% responsible for our lives in every moment, in every circumstance, in every encounter that we have all the time. A lot of people think they understand this concept of taking 100% responsibility, but I see that they're confused and perplexed by it, right? If we had a camera on you all last week and we heard your conversations, I bet there were times when you were complaining about the weather or the economy or the marketplace or your kids or the husband for why you are upset, not upset, doing good, not doing good, and the rest of this. But you are 100% responsible at every turn. Now, let me just show you the 3-way breakdown. By what you do, you are responsible. Now, a lot of people get that, go, I get it, I did it, my bad. I mean, some people go, I did it, but I did it because of this, and that. But let's say you take total responsibility for what you do. But you're also responsible for what you don't do. Many people are in their positions in life, not by what they did, but by all the things they knew they could have and should have and didn't. And that's why they have limited results. Now, the third one is the one that really trips people up. They go, okay, yeah, but what if you get hit by a bus? Or you're in a tsunami? Or you fall off a horse and break your neck? Were you responsible for that? No. You weren't responsible for what happens to you, but you are responsible for how you respond to what happens to you. See, I get a chance to interview some of the most extraordinary people on the planet, some people who have had the most ugly, heinous, awful things happen to them. And they've gone on to live miraculous, beautiful, universe-denting lives, not because of what happened to them, but because of how they responded to what happened to them. I'll give you, for instance, I was talking to a friend of mine, And he was complaining about his wife, just going on and on. I can't believe it. She does this, and she should do this, and when she does this, it really aggravates him. I'm like, dude, you've got to stop, because this woman is fantastic, and you're a boob. You're lucky she married you. And it was true. She was fantastic, and he was a boob. I said, let me tell you something I did in my relationship, see if this works for you. So I'm a big Thanksgiving fan. Everybody loves Christmas. That's all, fanfare and the rest of it. But I love Thanksgiving, food, family, and gratitude. So instead of writing Christmas cards, I write Thanksgiving cards to all the people who matter the most to me in my life. So one year, I finished all my Thanksgiving cards. The only one left I had to do was the one for my wife. And I was struggling with it. And the reason was, earlier that day, we had gotten into quite a tiff. And I wasn't feeling all that thankful at the time. So I literally had to just say, okay, wait a minute. Just back up. What do I really love and admire about this woman? What does she mean to me? And I wrote this beautiful card out. And then I saved it. Thanksgiving was for the next day. And the rest of that day, we had this amazing day. And at the end of the day, I was like, wow, what if I could do that every day? So Thanksgiving came along, and starting on that day, I took an empty journal, and privately and secretly, at the end of every night, I just wrote down one or two things that I was thankful for about my wife that day. It could be something simple, the great meal she prepared, or the loving care she gave to our dogs, or overhearing her giving support to a friend on the phone, or even just walking in the room and seeing her from across the room, and just how she struck me in that moment. I would just write it down. And I did that for an entire year, and I filled up a journal cover to cover. And the next Thanksgiving, I put a big bow on it, and I gave it to her as a gift. And when she got it, she cried and started to read it and said it was the best gift she's ever gotten, which was saying something, because her birthday was 4 months earlier, and I'd given her a BMW. So I really could have saved some money on that deal, right? And I said to my friend, I said, hey, why don't you just try this? Just 90 days. Just write down one thing that you appreciate about your wife that day. Just try it. Literally, it wasn't 2 weeks later. He calls me on the phone. He says, dude, you're not going to believe how much she's changed. I told you he was a boob, right? Here's the reality. What happens is, when you change how you look at a situation, the situation changes. Take something you're frustrated or aggravated with, and I just challenge you for 21 days, just write down one thing that you appreciate, admire, respect, or are thankful for about that situation or about that person. And the one thing that changes is not the situation, you change. See, instead of looking for what she was doing wrong, he was looking for what she was doing right. And because he saw it, wrote it down, and acknowledged himself, now he's responding to her differently. She's reacting to him, and they tailspin the relationship up. He says, we've never been more in love. We've never been more intimate. We've never been more connected than we've been this last 2 weeks. What follows choices? What follows choices is behavior. Eventually, you got to get up off the couch, go out the front door, and make something happen. So behavior is the next line of code in the operating system. The problem with behavior is 95% of all your behavior is completely and utterly unconscious. You're making choices you're not even aware of. You're sleepwalking through your life. For instance, remember the first time you were learning to drive and you're being instructed, okay, 10 and 2, and you got to check this mirror after you put on the indicator, then you check this mirror, indicator this way, you got to check this mirror, this leg's got to do this leg's got to do this arm's got to do this, and you got to do all this stuff simultaneously. You're like, I'll never learn to drive. Do you remember that? I mean, it's a long time ago for some of you, right? But do you remember that? But now, today, what happens when you drive? I mean, you can have a conversation in your car, eat, shave, apply your makeup, God forbid, text. Have you ever been driving down the freeway and you look up and you're like, oh my God, I'm like 3 exits past where I was supposed to get off, which meant for the last 8 miles, you were hurling your car down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, completely brain dead. Because it has become automatic. 95% of all your behavior is just like that. You are doing it and performing it, but you are totally unaware. So when I first got into real estate, 20 years old, did a fantastic year. I'm in front of the desk of my CPA, and he's crunching all the numbers, and the ticker tape's going like this. He's giggling. He finally gets to the end of it, and he goes, congratulations, son. You owe over $100,000 in taxes. I went, what? I don't have $100,000 just lying around. He's like, why? You earned several times that. Of course you set aside the money to pay your taxes. I was like, the look on my face would make it obvious that I had not. And he did me a great favor. He pushed himself from his desk, and he stood up, and he pointed his finger at me, and he said, "Son, you've got to stop it. I've seen this 1,000 times. You continue on this current path, and you will dig your financial grave with your wallet." And he put his finger on the most powerful personal development tool I've ever experienced, and I've been in this industry for 20 years and seen it all and tried it all. He put his finger on a little notepad, and he slid it across the desk. And he said, "I want you to write down every single penny you spend for the next 30 days. He says, "I don't care if it's $2,000 for a new suit, you buy a round of drinks, you go to 7-Eleven, buy a pack of gum, you put 50 cents of air in your tires, it all goes on that notepad." I said, "Yes, sir." And it really wasn't even a week before I realized, oh my God, how money had just been pouring out of my pocket. Now I've been taking out my wallet, applying cash, swiping credit card. I've been spending the money the same, but I had no idea how it had been pouring out of my pockets. And I went from earning a lot of money to being worth a lot of money on the same money by just getting an awareness. And that's the key for you as well, is whatever behavior you need to change to take you in a different direction, you've got to get an awareness about it, and you do that by writing it down. Behavior repeated become habits, and this is ultimately the crux of the issue. Because you ultimately want to create success habits to become unconscious that you do without thinking about them. Because right now, the habits that you have are taking you in the wrong direction. So we got to rebuild some new habits. So habits are the third line of code within the operating system. What happens is behavior repeated develops a neurosignature, or it's called a brain groove. That's the reason why you can drive without having to think about it. You can go to the refrigerator, pull out food, stick it in your face, and not even be conscious of it because of these repeated habit patterns. And habits start out like cobwebs and then become thick as cables when you try to change them. And it will take about 300 repetitions to ultimately undo a neurosignature and build a new neurosignature in for the habit that you want. And willpower will not work. The reason why we have the largest diet industry in the history of humanity, and we've never been more fat in the history of humanity simultaneously, is because they all rely on willpower, and willpower will not work. What you focus on not doing actually pushes you to do it even further, which is why people gain more weight back than when they started. What you need is why power, and this is actually a great setup for our next speaker. Why power? Why power is like this. Imagine I took a 300-foot steel beam and I laid it across the front floor here, and I said, if you walk on top of it from one end to the other, at the other end I'll give you $20. How many people would do it? Yeah, it's an easy $20. Now what if I took that 300-foot beam and I put it atop two 100-story buildings, and the wind is whipping and the birds won't even go that high and you're in the clouds? How many people, if I said, you walk on one end to the other, I'll give you $20, would do it? Now what if on the other building is your child, and the building is on fire, and right before your eyes, if you don't go across that beam, they will perish and die right before your eyes? How many people will go across that beam now? I did have one person in the audience say, I have 2 children. Which child? Just doesn't seem right, does it? What I want you to notice is the first time I asked you, no way, no how. The danger, the risk is too great. Oh, there's no way I would do that. The second time, you shot your hand up, and I didn't even offer you $20. The only thing that was different was the reason why to do it. When your reason why is urgent enough, important enough, imperative enough, you will perform almost anyhow. The risks, the dangers go away. And that's what it requires for you to be successful in your life, for you to dominate your marketplace, for you to grow your business. What is your deep, burning, urgent, important reason why to do that? It can't be to just beat the competitor or to make more money. It has to be some personal, important, urgent reason. And when you find it, you are completely and utterly unstoppable. So once you figure out, and inside there, we'll show you how to uproot your bad habits and install the success habits that you need. So the question that I pose for you is, what are the bad habits that are sabotaging your success right now? It's important that you get an identifier of what are those bad habits that are taking you in the wrong direction. And then, most importantly, after you uproot those, what new success habits do you have to plant that takes you in the direction you want to go? Because once you can uproot and install, you are on your way. When you can set your unconscious pattern towards the direction you want to go. So there's 5 ways to uproot your bad habits and 7 ways to install the success habits, and you can find that inside the compound effect. So what's the last line of code in the operating system? What ultimately is going to complete this entire picture? Really, all it is time. Your ability to stay consistent, to stay committed over a long period of time. It's the eighth wonder of the world for compound interest. It's the eighth wonder of the world for compound choices. Allow it to compound. Now, I want to give you one last success principle. And the reason is that when I was in real estate, I came in this business when I had no business to be in the business. I was 20 years old. Who would list their house, their most important valued possession with me? And I came in and did really well. And I did it because this one principle. I went to a seminar like this, lecture in front of the room. I got a chance to take him out to lunch. And I sat him at lunch and I said, okay, man, what do I got to do? Just tell me, what do I got to do to be successful here in real estate? And he said, okay, you're serious? I'm like, yeah, I'll do anything. He said, go fail. I'm like, what? He says, yeah, go fail big and go fail fast and go fail a lot. And by the looks on your face, it was the same look that I had on mine. I didn't get it. I said, dude, I thought the whole idea of success was avoiding failure. He says, no, it's exactly the opposite. And then he gave me this quote from Thomas Watson, the president of IBM, who said, the key to success is massive failure. Now, don't just hear that as some motivational quip. Like, really let that marinate on your brain. The key to success is massive failure. The key to success is massive failure. So I still didn't get it. So he wrote out this little analogy. This is what I want to pass on to you. He said, life is like a pendulum. And on one side of the pendulum is success, happiness, wealth, and joy. And on the other side of the pendulum is rejection, defeat, sadness. He said, if you just stand still, you won't experience any defeat, sadness, and you won't experience any success or joy. So you ultimately have to move amongst people. You can't live under a bridge. So what most people end up doing, they end up finding this little comfort zone. They're only willing to experience so much rejection, so much defeat, so much sadness, so they only experience so much love, so much joy, and so much success. And this ends up becoming what is defined as one's comfort zone. He said, look, you can't push the pendulum on the side of success. The only side you can control is the side of defeat, rejection, sadness, and pain. So your job, if you want to get the swing on the side of success, is to push it on the side of pain, rejection, sadness, and failure. Go fail really fast, a lot, as big as possible. So I took him at face value. Okay. So in real estate, there's a few places you can go get a lot of rejection, sadness, defeat really quick. Expired listings are one of them, right? House comes up on the multiple listing service, 6 o'clock in the morning, 30 agents descend upon that same house. By the 10th, 12th, 14th call, these people are ticked off. Lots of pain, rejection, and sadness to be had there. I would do that starting at 6 o'clock in the morning. When I was done with those, then I would go to the place that people loathe the most. As a realtor, it's like you shudder at the thought. For sale by owners. Lots of pain and rejection to be had there. Then I'd park my car at the end of a street, and I would just go door to door. White shirt, tie. People love that. Roaming around the neighborhood, right? Knock, knock, knock. Do you plan on buying or selling a house in the next 6 months? Slam. Kids throwing rocks at me from across the street. Dogs chasing me down the street. Rain. I'd take a little notepad. I'd put 50 check boxes on it. And every time I got rejected, I would put a little check mark on. So every time I got rejected, how do you think I felt? Great, I'm one more checkbox being done. This sucks, right? And then I would go home and 5 to 9 was money time. That's when I would cold call. Why? Because people are home having dinner. That's when you can catch them. Lots of pain and rejection to be had there. In 90 days, 20 years of age, no business being in this real estate business, I swung the pendulum high and wide on the sign of pain, rejection, defeat, and sadness. In an office of 44 agents, all veteran agents, in 90 days, I was outselling the entire office combined. More listings and more escrows in the entire office combined. The pendulum, as he promised, swung in equilibrium. The end of the first year, more than the number 2 and 3 agent combined. The end of the next year, number 1 in the city, then number 1 in the county. All because of this principle, this strategy here. And now, even to this day, this creates a new comfort zone. When I get to the end of the month, if I don't have some rejection, some pain, some sadness, some defeat, I'm mad at myself. Why? Because I want more success. The success I have today, I want more. So what's the key? Thomas Watson gave it to us. The key to success is massive failure. So if I don't experience some failure, I haven't pushed that pendulum so that it will swing wider on the side of success. So here's the key that I want to give you here. Learn to love failure. I mean, don't just accept it. Don't just make it part of the process. I'm saying pursue it with reckless abandon. Turn fear into fun. Don't celebrate the escrows or the listings that you get. Keep track of and celebrate the rejections that you get. Have a little competition with your team. Who can go get more rejections faster? Who can get 100 no's faster? And the one that does wins. And then have a little booby prize that whoever has the most ugly, horrible, heart-wrenching rejection or defeat, the biggest, epic, worst tale wins a big prize, carry them around your shoulder and celebrate it. When you turn the only thing that is stopping you is fear. And when you turn fear into fun, the whole release of your potential is wide open. So I encourage you to do that. When I asked Michael Jordan the key to his success, we were in a box at the Mavericks game. He said something like this. It ended up becoming a commercial. And let me show it to you real quick.
I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I've failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed.
I've failed over and over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. And that is why you will succeed as well. Here's another giant failure. Richard Branson, some of the most epic public flameouts you can imagine. He says, screw it. Let's do it. If you fall flat on your face, pick yourself up and try again. Eleanor Roosevelt put it this way. Do something every day that scares you. If you want to monitor one thing, at the end of the day, say, how many things did I do today that scared me? And the more you accumulate, the more the pendulum will swing on the side of success. And lastly, I just want today to be the day. Today. You've heard it before. You've made attempts at it before. But today, finally draw a line in the sand of the kind of choices that you're going to make to change the trajectory of your life. And sort of see your new goal, whatever it is, as this giant mountain in life. And here's what's going to happen. As you start to climb up, and you're climbing this mountain, people who will come out of the woodwork and go, oh, why don't you just join us for happy hour? Oh, just have a little bit over here. Oh, you don't have to be at the office. You just come over here. Oh, you don't have to go to that meeting. And you're going to have to look them in the eye and say, you see that mountain? I'm going to the top. And you're going to climb up a little bit further, and other people who, have your best interests at heart and say, you're just working too much, and there's other things in life, and they're going to try to solicit the weakest part of your nature, and you're going to have to look them in the eye and say, I'm going to the top. More people, as you get higher and higher, the attention and the naysayers become more and more voluminous, and you're going to have to look them in the eye and say, you see that? You're either going to see me waving from the top or laying dead on the side. I am not coming back. And when you can have that sense of resolve, this I will do it or I will die trying, nothing will shake my will and fortitude to get to the top. Then one day, you actually will be waving and maybe appearing on the cover of Success Magazine. Thank you all very much. It's been a great joy. Thank you for having me here.
سلاطین عزیز، شما میتونید با سرچ هشتگ سلاطین نتورک توی چنل ما توی یوتیوب سابسکرایب بکنید. یادتون نره زنگوله بغلش هم بزنید. مرسی که تا آخر ویدیو همراه ما بودین. دوستان لایک یادتون نره، توی چنل ما سابسکرایب بکنید و کامنت انگلیسی بذارید.